Luka, Andy, so excited to have you guys on. For everybody that doesn't know, Luka, you pointed this out. We have now done a podcast at 6 a.m. and 11 p.m. Pacific time. So
let's go,
bro. The grind is real, my guy.
We still need to do a 2:33 a.m. But we'll let that let one simmer for a little bit.
Bro, nobody wants to see me at 2:30 or 3 in the morning these days. But man, super excited to have you guys on. I think it's going to be an awesome show. Luka, let's start with you, man. Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what's new with you?
That could be long. I'll keep it short. I am the owner of Vigor Ground Fitness and Performance in Seattle, Washington. Actually 2 weeks is going to be 16 years.
Oh yeah, congrats, dude.
I founded also the Vigor Ground in Slovenia, which is now 18. It was going to be 18 and a half years ago. So
wow.
Almost getting close to that 20 years of gym ownership. Definitely 20 years of coaching. I would say that's kind of like my foundational what I do. But then I also I do a lot of online education. Like you, my friend Mike Robertson, teaching coaches, education coaches. And I dabble in a lot of stuff, but I own the building that I'm in. So I'm a real estate owner. I own an apartment building upstate New York too. So I'm a landlord amongst other things. Not my favorite thing to do, but that's the short spiel. But I'm in love with coaching. I'm in love with this industry. I'm in love with coaches and gym owners that help people. And if you've met me, you probably know that. Like you start talking about any of those topics, I could be at 2 a.m., barely alive, and then it lights me on fire. So, yeah.
And have you recovered from the summit, dude?
I have not. You know what? It's like from the summit, Andy will tell you because he was here. So, summit gets done on Saturday, late, whenever I went to sleep. On Sunday at 10:30 a.m., we were here back at the gym shooting a sales video, a podcast, mapping out our coaching program. And then literally the next day, I'm back to, coaching and I'm writing three hours, sometimes 4 hours per day. A new course, an ebook, our coaching program, playbooks. It's like, it's been insanity. So I haven't really, it's kind of one of those, like, when I take a second of break, I'll probably crash.
Yes.
Try to go to the mountains for 2 days and get away from humanity. But I've been on a roll, so I'm just trying to keep it going right now.
I love it. Andy, man, tell us a little bit about you and what's new in your world as well, man.
Yeah. Well, my life has not been nearly as exciting as Luka's. He's been putting on events and all types of big things. But, I'm the owner of BCI, Sport Performance and Fitness in Madison, Alabama. We've been in business for 24 years. We serve a wide range of clients from 7 years old all the way to elite professional athletes, as well as some grandmas and grandpas. So we kind of have two businesses living under one roof, and we treat them that way. I also do some consulting on the side where I help gym owners install lifestyle systems and business systems to help them have more profit and more freedom. And that's something me and Luka have been aligned on for a long time. He's done a lot of consulting and coaching, and kind of the next thing for me is us joining forces to really launch this Built to Last coaching program, which I'm incredibly excited about. I think Luka and I bring some differentiators to this space. Yeah. We both are completely in love with coaching, coaches, and gym owners. That's what we do. We know about marketing, we know about sales, we know about operations, but we're coaches first, and those are the people that we really want to help. So outside of that, I'm not coaching basketball this year, so I just get to be a
sports dad
on the wall and be a sports dad. So I'm very excited about that, and I get to go to my grandkids' games and just hang out with family in my free time. So that's where the rest of my time is spent.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I have so much stuff I want to cover with you guys today, and a lot of it, Andy, is actually predicated on the seminar, like the lecture that you gave at Luka's event, and it was like 8 P's, right? 8 P's to run a more successful business. And so we're going to kind of knock through those because I think there's so many things that resonated with me. And just full disclosure, like I still have the gym, but I don't have employees anymore because I kind of flipped things for myself. You talk about purpose, right? So my purpose has always been coaching first. Like you guys, I love coaching. I love doing that. I love that way more than managing people. And we'll talk more about that part later. Sure. But what I would love to hear from both you guys, and Andy, we'll start with you. Number one, what is your purpose, right? And then number two, when you're working with coaches, because you've coached a lot of gym and business owners over the years. How do you help them either find or maybe remember what their purpose is?
Yeah, well, that's a good point to make, because I think your purpose evolves and it changes. I think all of our purpose, I think everybody knows they need to start with why and a big reason, but I don't think most people do that, right? I think my purpose in the beginning was not to be broke. It was to create some significance for myself. It was to provide some income for my family. And like a lot of gym owners, I jumped, feet first into that. I had read some business books. I even put together a business plan. Yeah. Only to realize 10 years later that business had completely trapped me. Yeah. And I told the story at Luka's event where getting custody of my oldest daughter was kind of that big pivotal point for me, where it's like, wait a minute, man, I don't own a business anymore. So the purpose, and what I mean by that is I owned my job. It was well paying. I got to decide when I went to work. I got to do all types of cool stuff, but I didn't really own a business. If I wasn't doing the work, there wasn't any money coming in. So that took me away from my child. It took me away from really investing in myself in other ways outside of the gym. Yeah. So that purpose no longer served me, and I realized I needed to create another one. And that was pretty easy for me to figure out. You're staring at a child that you love more than anything in the world, and you got no time for. And I just realized, I have to fix that. And luckily, I had some good business mentors early on that kind of had told me, you're not going to want to do all the work forever. You should build your business like you're going to sell it. And I resisted that because the business was very much about me in the beginning. I was the star, so to speak, of the business. And at that time, if people were talking about my gym, it's like, we go to Andy's gym. They didn't even say BCI. Right. Now, 13 years later from when I made that decision, now everybody knows the brand BCI. There's still a lot of people that know I'm behind it, but this community has grown a ton. So there's a lot of people that don't know me. And I'm okay with that because now I do own a business and I can leave for 30, 60 days. I might be upset when I get back. I want to be clear about that. But everything will run well. And I say that jokingly because my team has gotten so good at running and managing everything. I would probably come back in 30 to 60 days and have to nitpick things. Yeah. Because having the right team, the right process, and everybody aligned behind a purpose that we can all rally behind each other for, that's where I'm at now. And the next thing for me purpose-wise is to pay this forward to other gym owners. I want to help other gym owners have the experience that I've had over the past 13 years.
I love it. Luka, what about you, man? What's your purpose?
See, I have to pause on this one because I always come back. I come back to this book, and the reason why is because it does explain, I think, what happened to me. I started lifting when I was 13. I was a scrawny kid that helped me with basketball, and I connected the gym to really good stuff, getting confident, giving me, helping me. I work hard, but help me give me skills on a basketball floor. So underlyingly, if you read the book, So Good They Can't Ignore You from Cal Newport, he talks about the passion hypotheses, right? That you just run into something and you're passionate about it right away. And then you're like, yay, this is my thing. Versus no, what you actually do is you do deliberate practice, right? So, and then that gives you career capital. So I think that what happened for me is that I started building career capital in coaching and training, when I was 13. Yeah. All the way through, my kind of dream was to play an NBA. I made it as far as the NBA Summer Pro League. I played, 3 years in a pro leagues in Europe. And I had this huge identity crisis when I decided to, not continue with my pro career. And I had all this deliberate practice and career capital built up in training. Right. And so the thing about that is that I already had passion, because the more you work on something, the better you get at it, the more passionate you become. I'm going to repeat that. It's we have 3 drivers of intrinsic motivation: competence, contribution, and connection. So I was very competent in training. I mean, I was psychotic because what led me to train hard, to study training, to get around the best people, in training was a chip on my shoulder. I was for a lot of reasons, I childhood traumas and the youngest of 3 and all types of stuff. And I was you're going to see me, I'm going to work so hard. You're going to see me. Right. And that honestly drove my life probably into my early 30s up until when I got therapy. That's a whole nother story. But and so when I talk about purpose, right, like training gave me so much that when I started coaching, I can't even explain it, but it was truly like a spark where, because when I started training people in Slovenia, I couldn't look at somebody in Slovenia and go, look at that guy. Like, they're making so much money. They're known, like they're crushing it. I'm going to be like them. I had to look to the US, but even in the US, so remember, this is 2005, 2000. Yeah. It's like 2005, right? Actually it's 2004. And like in 2004, who was driving a Ferrari, being a personal trainer? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of, like, it wasn't even a thing where, but it's like, but what I did know was like, man, I loved it. Like, when I'm working, like, I'm loving this. Like, like I can work a 12-hour day, 14-hour day, back to back doing this stuff. Holy shit, right? And I was every night. I mean, dude, that's probably when I learned about Neanderthal no more. You and Eric, when I actually flew out to Birmingham for an event with Eric and Nick Grantham. This was like 2007, 6. I mean, I don't know. Right, I was still playing pro ball in some of those years still, and training folks, and because I was so into like learning this stuff, right? So meaning obviously basketball and training, they're very connected. But I want to share the story because I think sometimes people don't understand the underlinings of why they do a thing. And when I look back, I realized like, well, man, I had like, 12 years of like learning trainings, training hard as hell, training under, when I was 16, 17, Srđan Đorđević, I know, say it 3 times fast.
I got no chance of repeating that.
No way.
But he was the track and field coach, not just in Slovenia. He was Marilyn Adi's coach the last 6 years of her career. Brigita Bukovec, who was the silver medalist in the 92 Olympics, 110-meter hurdles. I trained with her. That's the people I trained with when I was 17 years old, because the dude said, hey, because my coach and him, my basketball coach and him were friends. And my coach said, hey, I got this kid. He's crazy. Can you come train with you? And he was like, yeah, sure. Have him come train with me in the morning before school at 6, thinking I wouldn't show up. My ass is there 3 days a week, and learning from like just elite, track and field coach, speed coach. And just, Brigita Bukovec is teaching me foot fire and like speed acceleration drills. And I'm just like taking everything in because I was so into it. So by the time I went into coaching, I was like, man, I had like, tens of thousands of hours of training. And so I was very passionate about it. So I think that's important because I would encourage people, like, the more you throw yourself into stuff, the more passionate you'll become. The better you become at it, the more passionate you'll become at it. So I think that was kind of like the origins of my purpose. Is like, yes, first it came off of a chip on my shoulder, and then the more I did stuff, it actually turned into, career capital that kind of gave me purpose. And I love this tagline, right? Purpose is not found; it's forged. And man, I forged my purpose. You can forge yours too. So
I like that a lot, dude.
I love that quote, actually.
I got to write that one down because that's going in the title for sure. Well, look, one of the things that I love about you guys, obviously I respect the hell out of you as coaches, and you're super high level business owners as well. And that's a rare trait to have both. And one of the things that I love about you guys, and I know both of you talked about it at the seminar, was the idea of product. And I think this is something we've gotten away from, right? Because people want to talk about operations, sales funnels, selling tactics, all this stuff. And Andy, you called this out. You're like, yo, what if your product sucks? Yep. Like, imagine everything about the experience is amazing, and then you get in with your coach and they can't coach their way out of a wet paper bag. Like, that's a problem. So Luka, let's start with you on this one. Talk to me about why having a really solid coaching product is really kind of the foundation to your business.
I want to talk about that. And I also want to talk about, I really try to be as transparent as possible. And I'm sure, when you've been in business for 18 and a half years, again, if I'm counting Slovenia, right? Like, we've been through recessions, we've been through pandemics. I got some crazy stories, man. Like, I got some crazy stories, but also, I can also tell you when I did not, for example, do the best job of like I've always been insanely into development of my team.
Yep.
But I can tell you there's periods of time where there's specific, like for instance, parts of the team I didn't develop, and then how that hurt the product, right? And then, as time went by and I'm looking at it and going like, why is this morning class not doing? What's going on here? And it was like, it came back down to the product, which is coaching, right? And I call it the 3 C's, right? It's foundational. So it's coaching, customer experience, and culture. And to me, that's the product, right? Because the coaching is, and the 3 C's give you the 3 R's, which is results, retention, and referrals, right? So I'm always like 3C, great 3 C's
Dude,
equals,
I'm gonna have to write all these down, bro. There's a lot of C's and R's and P's.
I think in formulas, man. The thing is, it's easy to, this is a very Donald Miller thing. If you guys know Donald Miller, story brand,
okay, yeah.
Marketing simple, because people remember things in 3 to 5 at most, right? So it's like 3 C's, 3 R's, right? And it's easy for me to teach my team these things. It's easier for me to teach people these things, right? So, but if we go back to those 3 C's, right? To me, coaching is actually the definition of coaching is, first of all, technical skills, communication, and problem solving, right? And I think that kind of a missing gap for a lot of folks is the communication part, like how you interact with people, building rapport, active listening, getting good at speaking, storytelling, right? Like even again, like how you coach and cue, and who you coach and cue, and how there's just such a world of that stuff, and I'm completely obsessed with that, right?
Yeah.
Then if customer experience is like how you make people feel, like the before and after, the little things that you do, that a person comes from there and goes like, wow, like that was awesome, man. Like guy got me a coffee at the end because I was tired and I said I gotta go to work. I don't have time for coffee, and then he got me coffee from Fit Bar. Great customer experience. And I think like culture is just if you're just a one-on-one person right now, you haven't built the gym yet. Culture is to me, that's your character, right? The character is the culture of you. So how you show up, how do you treat people, how do you make people feel, what's the energy like? I got Coach Sam coaching down right now. That dude's dancing, and I can hear the beats. Dude's dancing between coaching people. He's got great energy. All those things, right, are product. And the thing is, I don't give a shit. Like, and by the way, I'm obsessed with marketing, right? Like, but you bring in, you got an awesome campaign. Somebody comes in, and it's like, the person that greets you at the front desk isn't that nice, right? And then it's like your strategy session, there's a miscommunication. Coach is a little bit late. They're kind of feel rushed, like, oh, hi. You don't feel amazing when they greet you.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome campaign, dude. You're getting people through the door. And then what? You didn't follow up, right? Like you crushed them in the first session. They're sore as hell, but they don't expect that they're going to be sore. So on it, like I can go down. We can go down the list of this. This can be like 17-hour podcast because that's the stuff that I love. But like that's the juice, man. That's the thing. You know what I mean? Like you could actually, me and Andy were talking about this, right? And you could do a ton of stuff wrong, right? You're not that great at sales. You don't have the best website. You might not even have a website. That was like, listen, my first year and a half, bro, I'm this weird Eastern European guy in a 900 square foot facility, no windows, no signage, no nothing. And thing was growing because they were like, yo, there's this guy, he's nuts, man. Like, you get there 5 a.m. and this dude looks like he's on something. He might be on something, but holy shit, energy's, through the roof. This guy's coaching me like in a 20-person class, like I was on a one-on-one session. Like more coaching than a one-on-one session. I can't understand it. He's everywhere. Like, people are like, oh man, can I come to class with you? Yeah, sure. And it's like you can get away with stuff. I'm not like, again, there's coaching, there's a business of coaching, but you can't, you can have great marketing. That's gonna quickly, people are gonna come to you and find out that you're not that great at your thing.
Yeah.
Right. You might actually accelerate that. So the product really is the foundation of everything. We really are coaching first business models. We want to trademark that damn thing. And that's why we coach people. We teach people how to create a great product because everything is built on top of that. I know the old analogy of the house, right? It's like your coaching product is basically, the foundation of the house. And All the other stuff comes on top of it.
Yeah. Andy, talk to me, man. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I mean, he just said a lot of really, really important things, especially around the 3 C's and the 3 R's. I'll shorten the story that I told at the event around the food. That's an analogy that was shared with me to talk about the importance of having a great product. As a gym, our product is training and coaching, but it expands beyond that. And I'll come back to that. But the food analogy is like, imagine that you and your significant other show up to a restaurant. You know, they comp the valet. The decor is amazing. The ambiance is great. You're immediately sat at your table. The menu is full of your favorite foods. You have the perfect waiter or waitress. Everything is going amazing. And then the food comes out, and you and your significant other take a bite, and you immediately look at each other and realize the food here is terrible. Now, because of all those other things, you might come back again. But if the food's bad again, you're probably not ever coming back.
Yep.
And I think in the fitness industry right now, there is a little bit of cognitive dissonance around how good our product is. And I actually think the business and fitness coaching world facilitates a little bit of this, because when you bring in a group of people to coach, to help them, it's almost like when you go to therapy. This is what a therapist told me one time. He said, I have to assume everything that you're telling me is true in order to help you. They have to assume that what I'm sharing is the truth about what I know about me and other people, right?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of gym owners and gym fitness business coaching coaches, they assume somebody's a good coach. And in my experience, this is the number one area that people need more focus. Yeah, they need focus in sales. Yeah, they need focus in marketing, for sure. But I've literally heard people tell coaches, hey, man, you need to quit studying training and studying business. And while I understand why they say that, the vast majority of the time, I think that advice is a little too early.
Yeah.
I've been doing this 24 years. I just bought that Takeoff book so I can learn about force plates.
Yeah.
Right? And I do no real training anymore, but I'm still educating myself on training.
Yep.
And if you're a business owner, you have to continue to educate yourself on training. And like Luka said, communication. And your ability to communicate with the client and paint the path for them, coach them through ambivalence. Like, these are things that you're not taught through your ACE personal training certification. So coach, I think a lot of people also make the mistake that their coaching product is good because they're certified.
Yeah.
Well, there's certain things that you are not ever going to be certified in that are still required to be a great coach. And I'll be honest with you, this is still the number one focus for us at BCI. In our last staff meeting, it's like, look, we're doing fantastic. All the data says we're going in the right direction. And because of that, it's time for us to circle back and really dial the product in. And I said I'd come back and mention what I mean by expands beyond the session. But for us, it's those first 30 days. Yeah. And that's why in our Built to Last program, I'm giving away our first 30-day onboarding system, as well as the 8-week coach onboarding system. So people will have an idea of how to onboard a coach to make a decision if you want to hire them or not, how to bring them up to speed so they can be a good reflection of the product, and then how to onboard clients to make sure that they have a great experience, to give them a chance to actually evaluate the quality of the product outside of just the training session. So this is such an important thing that I think is skipped over because everybody wants to pick up the skills of marketing and sales so fast. And again, like, I feel like I'm harping on this a lot, so I don't want to be negative about it, but it's an order of operations thing. Until you are great at the job of coaching, you should probably spend a little bit of time on sales and marketing, but it should be on coaching and communication.
Yeah.
And then there will become a point where that changes, right? Like right now, I study way more business, sales, marketing, scalability, like those type of things than training, but I'm still touching training, right?
Yeah.
It's like that general to specific continuum of efforts when it comes to designing a program. It also
Absolutely.
applies to business.
Yeah.
So that's the big message I want people to hear, is that you may not be as good as you think you are, and there's always room for improvement. And if you take that coaching first approach, you're going to have a good business. Because like Luka said, first year or two, my first 10 years, I don't know if I responded to an email or answered the phone number attached to my website. I just showed up and I trained people every day, all day. And it did pretty good. So,
yeah.
I mean, so I got a lot to, I got about 2 to 3 things that I want to kind of go in there and unpack, because Andy said a lot of powerful things. First off, I actually get like called out to consult quite a bit now, and locally for some very big name companies that you guys would know. big chain gyms, and I do, their team training. I've done coaching in staffs, like 4-hour, half-day type stuff, culture building, communication stuff. And I come in early. I always talk to the person that brings me in and say, hey, man, can I come in like a couple hours early and just watch? I want to watch people train. And they're like, hell yeah. It's like, it's kind of on my dime. But the thing is that like I've done it now, and I've been flown around too to come in and see other gyms. And what I always say is like, I just want to come in and check out the classes and stuff, and I watch and I take notes. And again, it comes back to this, like exactly what Andy said, that like at a certain point in time in business, you go like, okay, we got to grow the company, right? Like we got to get this, going. And then what happens, right? Like it's the law of the slight edge, if you've read, great book, Law of the Slight Edges, right? You're either getting better or you're getting worse. But I'm going to give you an example of an analogy. By the way, it happened here at Vigor too. So I'm not going to pretend like, we've been perfect for all that time. But it's like this, the coach has been coaching for a while, and all of a sudden it's like they're used to it, like this is what I do, whatever, man, right?
Right.
So instead of being 15 minutes early, which is, before a group class or semi-privates, to be prepared a session, go through your notes of what's going on that day, who's there, so on and so forth. You come in like 10 minutes, and then 3 months later, it's like 5 minutes. And all of a sudden you're coming right at class time, right?
Yep.
And your energy used to be on point, but now, you chat with other coach a little bit, and you do this, that. And so slowly, it's not fast, like slowly a year later, you're like not a 9.2 out of 10 coach. You're like a 7 or 6.8, right? And so now the product's gone down. And by the way, like the owner of the business might be, so if you're a coach, the owner of the business might be like, man, we're trying to scale. So sales systems, this, that, the other, whatever. And, slowly that product starts coming down, right? And I've seen it, like happen both, obviously in my own business, but I've gone around a lot and like seen this happen tremendously. And then when we do the in-staffs, people are like, holy shit. Yeah. That's what coaching at a high level is. So that's even in our coaching program, like when you see what we do, right? The team development or the onboarding for Andy, you're, probably going to be like, oops, man, I'm not doing that. Holy shit.
Right.
I would say that's a very important factor. The other part is kind of like how like I see stuff in frameworks and concepts, right? Like R7, which is the way that I've programmed. And by the way, like I think I'm 91% through Mike Robertson's program design mentorship.
Shout out to Mike Robertson.
I'm still hardcore, man. I'm a hardcore looting, when it comes to training stuff. But I look at, like R7 to me, sometimes when I look at R7 of the business, right? But it's like, what's my, maybe the juices, maybe the strength training, which is R5, right? Resistance. That might take a backseat, and it's going to be marketing is going to be the main thing, right?
For sure.
Okay. And then I'm going to be, my R2 is going to be training. So it's like a piece of the pie, right? Like how much piece of the pie am I dedicating to training? It used to be 100%. Like that was it. Like for my first 10 years, it was like, there was definitely business in there, but man, I was so obsessed. And, now maybe training, I go through periods. Right now, to be honest with you, I'm probably at like 40, 50%. I'm like really diving into it. But it's like, okay, 20, 30% marketing, 15% sales, this much operation. Like we're always doing the piece of the pie stuff. I think it's good to be intentional about it, right? Like maybe it's like, man, I'm locked in on the training, dude. Like referrals are coming in, this, that, the other. I talked on a girl yesterday that has a business in Montreal, Quebec, and looking to join a program. And it's like, hey, like I'm doing really good here, but like I don't even, what's marketing? I have zero system. I do sales, but I don't have a system. I don't have it was that part. So, hey, listen, your piece of the pie is probably going to need to be like, take your coaching stuff in 30, down to 30% on learning, and then 70 is going to be the other stuff. Let's build it up, for the next part of the season. Right. And instead of just like, we all wear, look, part of what we do is hats, right? You wear hats. Yep. I got the podcaster hat on right now. Afterwards, I'm going on a sales call, hat. Then I'm going to do a coaching session for an hour and a half, right? Like I'm a coach. Then I'm going to have a meeting for the gym. Like we're switching hats all the time. I just think that the principles and systems help. And that's what we've done is really taken, a lot of our mistakes as well over the course of, combined now being coaches for 45 plus, and sharing, the stuff that's best, that works, and trying to help people avoid the mistakes, because the mistakes can be so costly that they make you not be in the industry anymore. That's think about what happened in 2020 to 2021. We had 40% of all gyms closed, with majority of them never reopening, right? Like half of the industry left the industry, right?
Wow.
Because there was mistakes that led to that, to where there was no ability then to come back. And that's our mission, is to help great coaches build great careers, make money, because it's like, hey, like now we can make good ass money doing this, right? Like, whereas when I started, that was kind of like, it was a dream, but here we are now. If you do stuff the right way, man, you can do what you love, create a great career, financial security, all the stuff. And that's exciting.
Yeah. So I got a couple of things I have to chime in on. Number one, what you guys are literally describing whenever we think about this, because I think about it the same way. This is literally vertical integration, old school Charlie Francis, right? All the things are in the program all the time. It's just the dosage that's different. So if you're a young coach listening to this and you want to open a gym someday, that's great. But 80 to 90% of your time better be on learning how to coach and program and do all the things that make you a great coach first, while you're learning those things. When you've been in the game 20 years, or you started your own business, you got a great coaching product. Now you better scale up all the other things, the operations, the marketing, the selling. So that's number one.
Well said.
Number two, I always think about how bad we were at marketing at iFast, like always to this day. But we were always busy and we were always growing, and it was because of the product. Now, you can't always fall back on this. I think we were somewhat of a unicorn in that aspect. But man, you'd be shocked how well you can do having a really great product, because people will talk about it. Like you said, Andy, you're not answering the phone. You're not answering emails. But your product's so damn good, people are going to find you. Right? Now, again, I'm not saying that's a great path to long-term success.
No.
But if you have a great product, people will find you, and then hopefully that gives you enough time to really level up. And then the third thing, I always think about this, because you guys kind of mentioned this, but none of us are great coaches when we start. Not one of us. I'd like to think all three of us are pretty damn good coaches right now. We all sucked when we started.
Yep.
The messed up part is we all probably thought we were pretty good when we started too, right? It's like inverted. But it takes nothing to be a great human. And so one of the things that I've always talked about, and one of the things that I think distinguishes people that can stay in this industry the longest, is that they're great humans first, right? Like, I know you guys well enough. Like, Andy, I know you cared so much about your athletes. Like, you're so invested in them. Their success is your success. Same with you, Luka, right? It's that being a great human. It's caring so much about these people, right? Like, if they would just achieve this one goal, right? Like, you live vicariously through them. It takes nothing to do that. So if you are a young coach and you're listening to this and you're not great, that's cool, because none of us are. Like, none of us are great coaches when we start. But being a great human and caring about people and listening to them gives you that time to work through that, like, awkward phase we all go through, whether it's coaching, programming, assessments. We all go through that, but it gives you the time to get through that and come out on the back end and be a really great practitioner.
Mike, I think that's such an important message, man. That's big.
I was going to say,
definitely starts with being a great person first. And what I think has helped me a lot is my willingness to search out people that I felt like I had shared values with. And that's how I ended up meeting you. It's how I ended up meeting Luka. It's now why I would say it's kind of wild. I read a quote the other day. Somebody said, all your friends shouldn't be in your industry. And I'm like, well, I don't know. That's working pretty good for me, because I've developed friendships with a lot of people in this industry, and we all have very similar values. And I think we all are high. We at least look at ourselves as high character people, and we try to be that way in life. We try to live our values. And if you do that, there's this like magical aura that seems to attract the right people into your world that will help you become a better coach and a better business owner.
Yeah, I love it.
I just want to add one thing, and then we can go wherever you want to with it. But like, I really do think this is important. I talked about this at the summit, about the Danny Meyer analogy of the 51ers, 51 percenters, and for anybody that hasn't, by the way, my top, 3 to 5 business books, Setting the Table, phenomenal book. But so I'll explain what 51 percenters means, right? Like, Danny Meyer explains this. Obviously, one of the greatest restaurateurs of our time, 23 James Beard Award winning restaurants. And obviously everybody knows, why am I blanking on the big
The
fast
one everybody
food chain?
knows.
No, Shake Shack. There we
Yeah,
go.
there it is.
Yeah, Shake Shack. And I love me some Shake Shack sometimes. But he explains it like this, right? If you had 100 points, right, and you were the most skilled, so technically skilled person at the craft. For them, obviously, it's restaurants, right? Like whatever you're doing as a, for instance, as a server, technically, right?
Yeah.
In coaching, it would be like, man, program design. You're on top of the game. Like vectors of force production. Like you can see stuff, this, that, the other, right? Like that. But the thing is, if you're the best of the best, you know all your stuff. You're 49 out of 100 points, right? The other 51 points is 5 different things. Is these emotional skills of 51 percenters, and optimistic warmth, which he describes as genuine kindness, thoughtfulness, in a sense that the glass is always at least half full. Then it's intelligence, but not just smarts, right? But rather like this insatiable curiosity to learn for the sake of learning. 3 is work ethic, a natural tendency to do something as well as it can possibly be done. 4 is empathy, an awareness of, care for, and connection to how others feel and how your action makes others feel. And then the 5th one is self-awareness and integrity. So just an understanding of what makes you tick and a natural inclination to be accountable for doing the right thing with honesty and superb judgment. Those are the 5 things of the basically are the 51ers, right? Mm-hmm. And what I found is that I can teach you the 49. Like if you come in third, I can't teach you the 51.
Yeah.
You could probably be around us and kind of be swayed towards that 51. But the truth is like you can't just teach it and flip it. You can't. Yeah. So I always look at like I'm trying to find 51ers and then instill the coaching skill set in them, and they're going to be phenomenal. And look, I think this is really important, right? He calls it the in-line hospitality, but if people have a hospitality reflex, I have it. Like I can tell you right now. I have a natural tendency to want to help.
Yeah.
Right. And you guys know me too. Like, you call me in the middle of the night, like, listen, man, we got to go bury some people or something.
I say we got to bury the bodies.
Oh man, I want to help you. But in general, like at the gym, like I never, like, for example, somebody comes up to me like, hey, Luka, my shoulder's bugging me a little bit, man. You mind working on it? And it's like, it's past the session. This is like a team training member. They don't pay for semi-private. Like I could charge whatever for this. My natural thing is like, sure, Mary, give me like 3 minutes. I'm going to finish this off and then we'll spend 5 to 10 with you. And then I got to, right? Like, yeah. I've been doing it for 20 years and I never think about like, you should pay me a lot of money. Like, man, my time's worth a lot, and it is, I value myself, but my natural reflex is to like help people. Right.
Yeah.
And those people, and that, by the way, like that's part of like what we do in our gyms is like developing, right? Because I can develop the hell out of anybody.
Yep.
But man, you got to have that 51er and then I think that's what really like helps coaches excel to the highest level. And I think that's what, part of the business side of things is like finding those people.
That's so interesting because like literally 3 things that I found over the years that I kept coming back to. People are like, what do you look for in interns? What do you look for in coaches that you hire? 3 things. Number 1, hard work, right? You have to have a strong work ethic. And the things that you guys are talking about, these are things that you can't really teach so much as the person has to want to cultivate them.
Yep.
Right? So number 1, hard work. 2, curiosity, right? I can teach you things, but if you're not curious and asking questions, it's not going to stick. You're not going to want to continue to do it. And then 3rd is, again, just being a great human, right? You could be the most technical X's and O's coach, be able to cite Verkhoshansky and super training line by line. That's great, bro. But if you can't connect with another human being and if you don't care about what's going on in their life and why they're training, you're not going to be successful.
Mike Boyle, I remember, it's probably a decade ago I heard him say, I look for people who are certified CNPs. I'm looking for certified nice people.
Nice people.
And that goes a long way, man. Absolutely. It really does. You want good people who are kind and nice to people. I love the curiosity part because I think there's a lot of people in our world now that they're not curious the way we were. We had to go hunt and dig for like obscure Russian manuals and like these weird events and like the social boards, like before social media was a thing, like the super training board and so it's like nowadays it's so accessible. It's right there. And it's almost like fast food education, right? Like they're getting a little bit of it, but it isn't nourishing you the way that I feel like us having to go read books and
that's a great analogy.
really dig in.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I think that's a big deal. And when you guys were talking, I look at people like Luka talks about the 51ers. I like the term A players. And I think that's what every gym really needs is they need a team of A players. And there's a lot of talk out there now in the space about you can't find A players. And my thing is, I would agree, it is very hard to find them because a lot of A players are trying to do their own thing right now. But I believe that there are people that, you can convert into A players. They may be, a B minus when they walk in the door, but your leadership, your connection, your product, those are all levers that you can pull on or that they can bolt onto to help make themselves better as a whole to get to that A player level. And my team, I'm sure will hear this, and I've got no problem saying this. I'm not so sure any of them came in the door as A players.
Yeah.
But right now they are 100% A players. They are incredibly dependable. They work hard every day. They take accountability for their role and they own it. And I think that is one of the biggest things. If you want to grow a gym outside of you and your influence, you have to find these 51ers. You have to find these people who are willing to convert themselves into A players, even if they don't have the juice. And all the things that you just said that you look for in a coach, those are the things. That's the foundation that you need. And then Luka's talked a lot about plugging yourself into different mentors. That's a bucket that you need to fill in your life. If you have those underlining qualities, you plug into the right mentors, you end up in the right system, all of a sudden now you're really good at either finding A players or developing A players. But it has a lot to do with the people that you get around so you can borrow their brain and experience and learn from the wisdom of their mistakes too.
Yeah.
And and the thing,
go ahead.
The thing that I think about, it's stock market, right? You look at yourself as an investment, like S&P and me, right? And I know if you come to Vigor, right? Man, your stock's going to go up.
Yeah.
Right. And really
almost accidentally. Just by being in that environment.
Absolutely.
If you're going to be around that, and by the way, if what both of you guys, what all of us said, which is, again, if you're curious and you got that work ethic, right, and you're a team player, dude, your stock can go up on some NVIDIA type stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? Because you're around that, and there's so much. I mean, look, if you were, for example, we got 2 new coaches in the last 2 months, right? And they literally when they started 2 weeks later, they had a PPSC certification here, level 1, right? Then there was the summit, and then there's a kettlebell cert in a week,
right?
In 7 weeks or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And on top of that, you had a bunch of instaffs with me. People are like, dude, this is insane. I've coached you to come here and go hey, I've been coaching for 5 years, and in 3 weeks I've had more education than in the 5 years, right?
Right.
And by the way, and I constantly share, I coach a lot still because I love coaching. So, I'm a 20, I'm going to do 3,000 semi-privates, in 2024, in 280 to 300 classes, right? Still, right? So
yeah.
my point being, because I'm also sharpening my craft, and that's just one of the things that I want to do is I have a Kobe Jordan thing where I'm man, I want to be the best coach in the world, whatever that means.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? But what it means that you're going to see me coach every day. You're going to be around that. You're going to see me do small group. You're going to see me train elite athletes. You're going to see me coach, 6, 7, 8 semi-privates. By the way, I wanted to share this earlier and I completely spaced. Wednesday was today. Or was
Thursday.
it Monday? No, it was Monday. So we had so a coach didn't show up, miscommunication, app stuff, right? So it's I'm at 6 o'clock on Mondays and Wednesdays. I'm coaching 8, 9 semis. I'm just in it, right? And I'm there's 18 people in class, 20, no coach, 603, 6. I text Des, I'm what's going on here? Miscommunication. Okay, nobody can take it. Here's the thing. You couldn't even tell, because I'm at 603. All right, guys, we're going to start getting warmed up here. Right? And I tell a story and I go through it and I start schmoozing. Boom, they're getting warmed up. I'm running around coaching semi-privates. Fernando, pick up that weight a little bit. Hey, Tim, I'm going to put this band here. I want you to push through the band on the inside line of your foot. You're kind of rolling to the outside on the RDL. All right, guys, next drill, squat the stand. We're going to do. Man, I'm coaching a 20-person team training while I'm coaching 8 semi-privates, sweating bullets.
Yeah.
Just, it's look like I'm fucking Braveheart in war. Just, you know what I mean? At the end of the session, I bring it in because I do this. I do a story thing, right? Like, and I'm like, hey guys, I wasn't supposed to coach class today. I know because you saw it on the Vagaro app. But man, coach didn't show up. We didn't know what's wrong. No assumptions, whatever. But hey, you know what? This is life. Sometimes it's just going to happen. Are you going to be prepared? You know what I mean? You're going to be prepared. Your nutrition. Are you preparing so when shit goes wrong that you got the protein shake and your blueberries and stuff versus like going to, Auntie Anne's Cinnabons, right? And I'm like sweating, telling a story. And, people are like, man, like, thanks for doing that, Luka. Yeah. Like everybody's fired up, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you were there, first of all, if I didn't even say it, you'd be like, oh, Luka's coaching the class and coaching semi-privates too. It's kind of weird. Probably not a great thing. But my point of it is like, you're seeing that. Okay.
Yeah.
We had 3 coaches in the building, right? And, it's like, damn, this motherfucker just ran a large group class while coaching semi-privates. Everybody's happy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you have, what Andy said, like you I call it collecting role models. Hunt for skill sets, collect role models, right? Those are like 2 big things, principles for me. So it's like, you're going to see that. What you're not going to see is me go like, what the heck? Like, body language. Like I'm pissed off at the coach that's not here. I look like I don't want to run the class, like, oh, this is beyond me. Like I got all these clients here. Or I can exude and exemplify what it should look like.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, you're going to see that. Just like today, people act like I mentor, I coach. Me and Andy have a coaching program. I do some really high level stuff. If somebody said, hey, Luka, work for me for 15 hours a week for free, and you can see what I'm doing. And maybe it's a commercial real estate person that's the best in Seattle, right?
Yeah.
I'm jumping on that.
Yeah.
And today people are like, oh man, I don't get paid for it. Dude, like you should be paying for that.
Yeah.
Right. But that mentality is what's the difference maker. Because I know when I see somebody like that, I'm like, man, you're going to be successful. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Your stock is going to go up.
This is such a great point, and this is something that kind of rubbed me the wrong way because I don't want to be negative about this, but like I feel like there is a shift in our industry where in the early 2000s, 2010s, people wanted to go out and get internships, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't want to, but they saw the value in it. And so this is something I really started to notice, 2020, and maybe it had something to do with COVID. I don't know. But I feel like people have really gotten away from this or they think they should get paid for an internship. And maybe this is just the old head in me, like, dog, I didn't get any money to do a lot of the stuff that I did, right? But I will tell you, I think anybody that came through our internship would tell you that was the most valuable thing at that point in their career because it set the stage for everything else, right? And I don't think enough people appreciate that. Everybody, I get it. You should value yourself and you should value your time. But I tell people to this day, probably the only regret I have in this industry, I went through my entire master's degree. I was actually unemployed, right? So I graduated May of 2002 and sit there, no job. Finally, I got to make money. So I start substitute teaching. Take a job in December of 2002. I've never told this like in this format. But the year before, I'd put in to get an internship with the Colts. And they're like, sorry, bro, like you'd be great, but you're too late, right? We've already got our interns. It's like a 6-month unpaid deal. So the next year, literally, I'm not kidding you, I take this job, right? I'm getting ready to move to Fort Wayne. I get a call from Rich Howell, who's still the strength coach for the Colts, which is amazing. And Rich is like, hey, we loved your resume last year, 6 months unpaid. Will you do it? And I was like, dog, I can't do it. So backwards thinking on my part, right? Like I should have done anything, taken out credit card debt, whatever, go take that 6-month internship because how valuable is that?
Yeah.
Right.
Man.
And I think as a young person, sometimes it's hard. And if you don't have the right people around you or the right mentors to say, hey, look, this is a life-changing opportunity, right?
Yeah.
But we get so caught up in, oh, I got to get paid now. I got to start making money. Like, yes, I'm not saying that's not important, but sometimes you have to take a step back and really see like, hey, if you take a 6-month internship with the Colts or 4 months with you, Andy, or Luka, you go and take that time, dude, you're not getting paid, but the currency that you're getting in career capital is through the frickin' roof.
See, that's
And
it.
connections.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the thing
right?
is, think about this though. You said something, and I want because it stems from a belief system, right? When you said, I've had this happen, by the way, and it's like hey, I sit down with people and it's like, all right, how much do I pay for this? I'm like, man, that's a trick. I'm telling you, I get triggered. Because currently it's like this. You said it, right? People like, you see it all over social media, right? Know your worth.
Yeah.
Know your worth. And it's like, no, I believe you should show your worth.
Yeah.
Show your worth. Because eventually, by the way, when you've been showing your worth enough, absolutely, your S&P and me is like, whoop, through the roof. And then there's a reputation, right? There's a value. Fill those buckets. I've been like last year, I spoke about these buckets to fill, to become really successful. Knowledge, 1, skills, 2, people, 3, right? Then you get resources, and then you get reputation, and then you get options, right? Those are the 6 buckets. But the thing is, what people are trying to do is get the status and reputation. But if you don't have the knowledge and skill bucket filled, and the people, when I say people, it's not just who you know, it's who knows you. Yeah, right?
Absolutely.
And the thing is, you got to fill those buckets, man. Like, otherwise you get to a position and you don't have the skills. Yeah. Oh shit. You know what I mean?
So there used to be, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm thinking of a situation in my world where there used to be this thing that if you were coming into a business like one of ours that's well respected, you would feel like you needed to come in and prove your value to the company, right? Like I know I'm going to get an education here. I know I'm going to get an opportunity. I need to prove my value and my worth. Well, what's happening now is there are a lot of content creators that are trying to teach people how to get the most out of their career before they've actually done anything in it. And what I keep, this idea of like a paid internship, that's called a short-term job. That's not an internship, right? An internship should be free. Recently, I had a guy who we ended up hiring and then had to let go of very quick. And I saw this up front. He came in, and I'll say this too. This is for the gym owners, but if you're a trainer listening to this, you need to understand this. It doesn't necessarily matter what you think you're worth. It matters what the margins dictate that person can pay you. That comes down to the pricing of their product and what they do.
Yeah.
So if you come in the door with this idea that you're more valuable than the business owner actually thinks you are, we now have a problem. And this guy specifically tried to negotiate $10 more an hour than our entrance level pay.
Right.
And he had told me that he wanted a mentor to learn how to run a business. And I said, well, hey, man, this is the first lesson I'm going to share with you. It doesn't matter what you think you're worth. Here, it matters what I can pay you relative to our margins. And I said, I think you're operating under a value proposition that neither of us know is true. You believe you're worth $10 more an hour, but you've never proved that to me. You've never proved that to yourself, because that's why you're here.
Yeah.
And I think that people have to understand that you're being persuaded by content creators to renegotiate your salary. If you don't feel valued, to quiet quit. Like, what? This is a foreign concept to somebody like us, right? Like, quiet quit because I don't feel like you're paying me enough. How about I just like over deliver and make you see my value instead of quitting? So I think if you're a young trainer, you need to hear that. Okay. Yeah. Don't negotiate your salary. Prove your value, because any one of us, if you can make an impact and you can help our business make more money, we will pay you more money.
Okay.
But if you're coming in to be a coach and a trainer, there's only so much I can pay you as a coach and a trainer. And that's just the reality of things. And to the business owners listening to this, do not let yourself get manipulated by a coach that you really value and want.
Yeah.
You must stay within your margins to run a healthy business. And if you really want to hire this person and they're going to cost you more than what you can afford, you have a calculated risk that you need to evaluate there. Am I going to double down on driving enough revenue to now pay for this person? Are they going to make that big of an impact? Or do I need to make the decision right now that keeps my business safe and stable? And these are, some of the harder things that I don't think our industry is very skilled at dealing with. I'm blown away with the amount of business owners that their margins are so tight that they can't pay themselves. And when we look at things, a lot of times it's that they are overpaying coaches and trainers because they have good hearts. They know how hard it is to get ahead in this industry.
Yes.
And we want to take care of people. Like Luka said, like we have a hospitality reflex. We want to help people.
Yeah.
But if you're helping people and hurting yourself and your business at the same time, my friend, you are hustling backwards. And that's not the move.
No. Luka, what did you have, man?
There's both sides here, so I'm going to piggyback on what Andy said, because I want to speak to the coach and I will speak to the gym owner, right?
Yeah.
To the coach, it's like this. Because here's the thing. Are there places where you don't get valued and do a great job? Absolutely. That could be true too.
Absolutely.
But here, let me tell you my story, and then I'll relay it to, like, when I came here, I had to start from scratch and work at LA Fitness.
Yep.
Right? And, did I have things in common with the values of the company? Dude, I didn't even know what the values of the company were. I knew that they wanted me to fucking hit numbers, because it's like everything, and then they lied to you about what commission you'll get. But here's my point. My point was this. I wanted to be the best.
Yeah.
Right? I broke the West Coast sales record, and I wasn't even like that good at sales at that point in time, but I hustled, and I cared about people, and I followed up, and I took care of people. And it was a January. It was like a new year, new you thing. But man, I absolutely crushed it, right?
Yeah.
And I was like a training manager, because I actually couldn't afford to just be a trainer. And then I would train on the side. And I think I told the story before. And then I'd give the coaches the sessions so they would make money for free and then cash me out half. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this. It was about me becoming better. Yeah. It was not about, right? So I became the busiest. I became the best in the numbers side. When I went to Vision Quest, I became the busiest coach. I won the 3 Biggest Loser comp. Like, I could go and try to negotiate, because I would be like, look, proof.
Yes.
I started a boot camp. Like, listen, guys, I'm making you EFT money in a big box gym. I'm running a model nobody's ever done. And now you bought out, eventually 14 gyms, and you run the model that I did it. You made millions of dollars off of it. Proof. Like, I wasn't showing up and going like, hey man, like, times are hard. So, I should get paid more, versus like, hey man, like 6 months ago, I had this many clients. Now I have triple. My attrition is only 3%. Blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
Like, for me as an owner, I'm going to want to like pay you more, keep you, give you more opportunities. All of us, like, when we see that, dude, like, you're going to get more.
Yeah.
But you can't be like, this has happened and that's happened. I'm looking at the metrics. I'm looking at the proof, and it's not there. And then you're like, well, I got to value myself. I'm like, dude, if you value yourself, you should be crushing this, right? Being the best, and then coming with a proposal. Just like, it's a pitch deck, right? Imagine you're pitching a company to sell, and you're like, hey guys, we're down 20%. We're losing money, but I know I value myself. I'm really worth it, man. Like, can you guys buy out this company? They'll be laughing at you, right? Like, so I know this sounds harsh, but like, that's like, look, you know what? I care so much about the people that I want to get you ready for the world. Whether you stay here, whether you move forward, the amount of people that have come through here and opened their own businesses, successfully run gyms that I still keep in touch with, mentor, have gone through the programs, that number is very, very high. Because I want you to do well. And the thing is, if I don't teach you this stuff, you're going to go forward going like, man, like, they didn't know my worth. Then you go to the next place and you fail. You go to the next place and you fail, right? Because there's principles and there's skill sets. And so now for the gym owner, again, you have to, exactly what Andy said, like, look, you got to, there's a time where you kind of, I would say, make decisions with your heart. But a lot of times in business, you got to make decisions with your head. And you can't look, you got to look at the metrics. By the way, when we consult people, when we coach people, a lot of people don't know their numbers. They don't know their margins. They don't know their margins per class. They don't know, like, hey, what's going to get you net 20 at the gym, right? Like, do you know what your expenses are, your fixed costs are, what you're paying a coach? What's the gap? I call it a gap. Like, hey, we can pay coaches more as they, you know what I mean? Like, they're crushing. Cool, we got some leeway. But man, like, there's a certain place that you go by. And like, that would actually be a bad decision for the business. And I made that mistake too. Yeah. Right. Where like, hey, I'm making a decision because I care about you, but I'm actually now hurting everybody because the business supports everybody. And so like that part of like knowing your numbers, knowing your margins, knowing what gets you to the right profits. Hey, we had to learn that. Sometimes we have to learn that the hard way, but we know that stuff. That's what we teach people. Right. We look at their business and go like, hey, like I just had literally a consult where I'm like, you like with this model, unfortunately, and I ran it. I was like, if you double your business, let's look at what happens if you double your business. And I was like, your margins are like, your model is not supporting you to get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
You doubling your business is going to give you very little, more profit from where you are right now, but you're going to have a lot more work.
Yeah.
And
so
we had to show that to was like, oh shit, like, whoa, I'm over here busting my ass to grow my business, but really growing my business actually might be a faster, destruction.
Yeah. So it's funny. Whenever I do this kind of stuff or whenever we have these discussions, I always immediately think about sports, right? Because that's just the way my brain is wired. But I just think a lot of what we do in business, think of yourself as a general manager, right? We've all seen the team that overpays for the superstar, right? Give them a supermax contract. Now the rest of the team is crippled and you can't put good players around them.
Yes.
Versus, it really pains me to say this, guys, but the New England Patriots, right? All the Boston fans are going apeshit right now. But man, Tom Brady overperformed and underpaid. He took less than his value and the whole team succeeded as a result of that. So I think that's something that needs to be noted is like, hey, look, you can really cripple your business if you overpay one person. And again, it comes back to knowing your numbers and actually kind of sits kind of seamlessly in this next or this like final topic I want to talk to you guys about, because this is such a dirty subject in our space. It's not selling, it's profit, right? Everybody wants to talk about gross. Andy, you and I have talked about this. Luka, you and I have talked about this. We know people that are running 7-figure businesses and making 5-figure salaries.
Yep.
I mean, it's sad. And these people are grinding. They are working their ass off. They're not taking anything home. So, Andy, let's start with you. Why should gym owners be more concerned with their profit versus their gross?
Yeah. So first of all, let me just say that this is something I've had to really work hard on myself. One thing that I am really good at, and I've been good at it my whole life, is making money. I've always had kind of a hustler's spirit. I've always known how to make money. What I've also been fantastic at was lighting that money on fire as fast as it came in. And, when I have parameters around it now, so I can only light on fire what I'm allowed to light on fire, right?
Yes.
But what I realized early on, because like I'm 3 years into my business and I had to fight for custody of my kid. And there was a limit of how much cash I had available to fight for her. And I ended up getting joint custody. That's when she was like 3. Well, I won custody of her when she was 13. By the time she was 13, I was ready for a full-on multi-year battle, and I had a war chest of cash that I was ready to dump into this to win custody of my kid. I didn't have to spend all that money and ended up winning custody of her anyway because I just let her mother know how far I was willing to go.
Yeah.
The only way that I did that was because I got a handle on how I spent money. And I would love to say that it was profit first that got me there, but I'm going to get to that. But what really helped me was taking a hard look in the mirror and asking myself, do I actually know how to manage money? I make this much, I spend this much. The delta was the difference, but that didn't add up on my statements. That didn't add up on my P&Ls. It said I made $15,000 this month. Why don't I have $15,000 in my account?
Yeah.
And this was the elementary understanding I had of cash flow and money. And it just made me go like, man, you pride yourself on being able to make money, but you can't keep it.
Yeah.
And that's the game.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter what you make. It matters what you keep. That is the key to having a healthy business. That is also the key to your path to actually making like real money and wealth. I made the point at Luka's event that this is a cash in business, not a cash out business. You should build your business to sell it, but it's very hard to sell for a significant multiplier if you're the key man and you don't have systems really dialed in and you're not cash flowing at a significant level.
Yep.
So what's better to do is build a really healthy business to where you have a lot of net income every year that you can reinvest back into other cash flowing assets. That's what I've done in my life. That's what's protected me. That's what's helped me build what I've built. It's that I learned how to be financially responsible. And that leads me to profit first, because human nature is a hard thing to unwind. And you have habits on how you spend money, what you like to do. But when I learned about profit first, which is almost like the Dave Ramsey envelope system for your bank accounts, it put everything in this very particular account. And I just knew these are off limits. and these I can touch.
Yep.
And if I didn't have the money to do what I wanted to do, I had a hard decision to make. Do I blow the budget, which I got to admit I did plenty of times, but I do not now. Or do I create the income? Learning how to create the income is what's made me a much better business owner instead of just blowing the cash. And the analogy that Profit First used that I think is great is like when you get your first toothpaste container, right? You put a big dollop of toothpaste on the toothbrush. But when it starts getting lower and lower, you get real creative. You start rolling it up. Like I said, I've used a razor blade to cut the side of it open to dig in there. And it's the same way. If you take all your money out of one big account and put it into these smaller buckets, when you're running out of cash, now you have to be creative to find a way to fulfill whatever you want to fulfill. So I think those are the two things. You got to look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, do you have any idea what you're actually doing with money? And then you got to do what we would do in like a exercise selection standpoint. It's always better, in my experience, to provide a constraint than hoping you can like cue somebody out of every mistake they make. If you can provide a constraint by having these bank accounts in a Profit First system, it keeps you out of your own way, and your business will grow and you'll be more profitable than you can imagine. And I've even got my Profit First professional who's willing to do cash flow analysis on anybody that's in Built to Last. I've been working with her 7-8 years now, and she's in the book Profit First for Micro Gyms that's actually written by my CPA or the CPA firm I use. So I'm a big believer in that. But if you can't look yourself in the mirror and be honest about how good you are with your understanding of money and your habits, it won't help you that much anyway.
Yeah, those are some great analogies. The thing that I tell people is like, there's three, these are three different skill sets because I'm the same way. Me and Andy. I mean, actually, me and Andy connected because we had on the fact that we had a kind of our growing up was similar. That we did young stuff and we're involved in criminal activities, and that was my kind of learning how to make money. Because there's three levels to it. It's like make money, keep money, grow money. Those are three different skill sets, right? Because making it, then keeping it is the financial management, right? Like what I put in savings, this, that, the other. I was thankfully, I created my own systems early on. And it was like, some of it was like the richest man in Babylon stuff, right? Like put 10 to 20% on the side. I automated stuff out of my accounts, that just automatically went into different places. Because, how did I save money to nobody helped me buy the building. I mean, obviously an SBA loan, but I'm saying that from the get-go, the huge deposit I had to put down, the amount of money I had to have in operations to be able to still run the businesses while, leasing one space, buying another one, doing construction on another one. Yeah. That was because I learned how to keep the money, right? Then growing your money is like, it could be as basic as do you have automated money going out weekly to an S&P, to index fund, right? It could be, I've done investing. Actually, I could put that on I don't put it on my Instagram, right? But I've invested in a company as a startup and actually, made a good chunk of money from investment. And look, I'm not recommending that's your strategy, but I have a strategy of how much of my money, goes where like 80% of my money is actually more kind of safer investments, and then 20 to 30, like sometimes I'll make some riskier investments that have paid off, Yeah. But you have to have a system, and that's the growth system, right? By the way, we teach these things, right? Like, hey, first of all, you might be in a phase where you got to learn how to make money.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to improve your coaching, and you got to get better at sales. You know what I mean? Like you got to, but then once you got it, like, hey, why don't you just use like with what me and Andy are teaching inside of the business coaching Profit First model? Dude, you don't have to create it. Like just take what we teach you. It works, by the way, right?
Yep.
Right.
And same thing on the growth side. Like, where I'm very proud that like many people that I've coached have actually bought their real estate, right? And at some point in time, they were like, Pat Hennigan bought a 5,000 square foot facility in Jacksonville, Florida, right? And it's like at the beginning, he didn't have even an idea or belief that was a possibility. Yeah. But I'm like, hey, if you're going to be in this business for a long time, like I think that's actually a very good idea, right? If you're not like, oh, I'm going to sell it in 5 years, but like I see myself continuing to to go and impact people, right? Like, and by the way, it puts me in a position where if I did want to, like, I have a lot of equity in this building. I mean, it is a cash flow positive business in and of itself, because it's the real estate company that I owns the building, and then the gym pays the rent to the company, blah, 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 right? Like, my point being is, like, look, these are things to learn, but like we're talking about it because somebody might go like, well, I've never learned that stuff. But if you're going to be a business owner, like, you have to. You know, it's not like good to, you must, right? If you're going to be in this game for a long time and actually create a career and financial security and like do all the stuff that you want to do and be able to support your family and again, live the life that you want to live, you can't have blinders on for this stuff. Like, you must learn these things.
Yeah. Well, and it's just something where, you know, even if you choose not to do something like that, right? Like, maybe you decide, hey, I'm going to own my business, I'm not going to buy the building. At least it's like you've been educated on the piece and you know why you're not going to do it.
Correct.
Right? Like, everybody has to make their own moves, but there are so many discussions that we have now that weren't even on our radar 15, 20 years ago, right? When you open your business, you're not thinking about buying a building, right? But at some point, you need to be turned and switched onto these things, because if not, maybe you're leaving money on the table. Maybe you're paying more for your space than you should. You're not, you know, you're not in that aspect of growing your money, right? You're just focused on making. So then you're just in this hamster wheel, right? So, man, I just love where you guys are at. Obviously, we could probably talk forever. I think we all have stuff we need to do today. Andy, let's start with you. Where can listeners find out more about you as well as Built to Last?
Yeah, so the best place to get a hold of me right now is the Instagram. As most people know, I don't do a whole lot on social media, but I have committed to being more present and available on Instagram. Luka Hocevar is the marketing director of Built to Last, and I have to report to him if I'm not available on Instagram. So it's Andy McCloy _ BCI. On Facebook, I just mess with people about LeBron James and Michael Jordan, so there's no point in even hanging out with me over there. But on Instagram, we can jam, and I can point you towards all the Built to Last resources if you have interest in talking about that as well.
Perfect.
I just want to point out that Andy said the Instagram. And so that's how you
Instagram.
Know. You can find me on the Instagram.
Bro, he has been posting more, though. He's been posting more. I noticed. I see you, bro.
I've been applying constant gentle pressure on him. You know what I'm saying?
Luka, what about you, man? Where can people find out more about you, bro?
I would say like main hub is definitely IG, because, and I'm like, I communicate, like, you know, if you message me, it's actually me and not a bot messaging you back. You know, and obviously Instagram, I share a lot of stuff there. Then if you want to check out other stuff, my YouTube channel, I do a lot there. Luka Hocevar, basically just type it in, LukaHocevar. And then also the Vigor Life podcast. We're actually also, I guess we can announce it here. We just shot an episode. We got a couple more episodes, but we're doing a Built to Last podcast. That's going to be specifically for gym owners. We got a fire episode that we just shot. But if you message us, we'll schedule a call with you. We'll talk like human beings. You know what I mean? Like, you won't get, like, we want to find, again, this is a program for people to have about 25, 30 or more people in their gym already, right? So you're already training that many clients and you want to get to 100 plus or hundreds. That's what we do. So it's very simple. You got 25, 30, you want to get to 100, you know, 100 or hundreds. That's what we'll help you do. Reach out and we'll have a conversation.
I love it. Well, I will make sure a lot of show notes for this one for sure, fellas, because we got books, we got your guys' social stuff. But man, to everybody listening, I hope you guys really appreciate. These guys are absolute savages. They're doing it at the highest level. Two guys that I deeply respect as coaches, as business owners. So fellas, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
My
brother.
pleasure, bro. My pleasure. Thank you.